Hey everyone, Andre here, along with Triss, and two very special guests today who probably need less of introduction than either Triss or myself need on our own channel, being Kit and Krysta from Nintendo Minute, or as actually it is now, the Kit and Krysta podcast. How are you both doing?
We're doing great. Thanings for having us. It's so exciting to be here.
It's great to see you too.
Yeah, it's been a little while since we've seen you, as we were just discussing before recording. So I used to see you pretty frequently in person, then the pandemic happened and the world came to an end, and it's good to see you both again. And a huge congrats on the massive success already of your podcast, which you just announced a few days ago, and the first episode may already be up at the time of this posting. Yeah, it just seemed like it just took the internet by storm. I'm pretty sure I saw it trending. The support for the Patreon has been through the roof. So what's that been like for you two to start this new project on your own and see it take off like this?
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind several months actually, from us, putting out the last episode of Nintendo Minute, and then Krysta leaving Nintendo, and then myself leaving Nintendo, and us starting up this great new venture. So it's been just a very exciting time with all sorts of transitions. But yeah, we have our first episode coming out tomorrow. Again, maybe you're hearing it now, but we're really excited to move on to this new phase.
Yeah, and of course the support from the community has been incredible. We really saw that throughout this last few months of like a lot of change and definitely some emotions as well, with Nintendo Minute ending, which was really, really crazy just because the show was running for so long, was part of our lives for so long. And then with both Kit and myself having our own sort of personal big life change of leaving Nintendo, throughout all of that and this entire experience, it's really been this amazing community that has supported us and is really what's driving us forward to continue to create content together and do this podcast. So yeah, it's just been like every time I see it, I'm like weirdly surprised, but then I'm like, no, I'm not surprised because these people are awesome. Why am I surprised?
Right.
But yeah, it's really been incredible.
Because for anyone who doesn't know, you both were at Nintendo for, was it 13 and 14 years, respectively? Yeah, right. That's longer than I've been running GameXplain here, which is ridiculous to me. And I believe the Nintendo Minute show had almost been on air for, I think it was coming up on its 10-year anniversary. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was
close, yeah.
A little bit over 8 years, which pretty much coincides with when we really started doing YouTube at Nintendo of America. Right. So I think for as long as fans have been watching that, it's probably been part of that experience.
Yeah, 429 episodes is I think the last.
You were up all night counting, weren't you?
I was on that playlist, rechecking, get my numbers right. But no, it's an incredible thing, I guess. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's like this weekly event that was in our lives, and we sort of like marked our time at Nintendo with Nintendo Minute, and it sort of like was this like little time capsule of our years there. So it was crazy to see it end, and but also exciting for us to move on to the next thing.
So how did the idea for the podcast come to be? Did it just hit you immediately? It's like, all right, well, our time at Nintendo's done. Let's make a podcast and continue this. Or was it more of a slower evolution? Can you tell us how exactly that came about?
Well, it happened, I think, we had the thought relatively quickly once we knew we were moving on from Nintendo, but I think we needed a bit of a gentle nudge to confirm that it was a good idea. Right. So, for myself, it was like, oh gosh, I guess I need to get another job. And I started like cruising LinkedIn. I was like, oh gosh, maybe this isn't what I want to be doing. And, Krysta and I were both in the same mind space of like, wow, there's probably something that we could do with this great community that we have and all this experience that we have. And we started talking to different creators out there and getting their input. And they were all just unanimous, like, yeah, you'd be crazy not to do this. And we're like, yeah. We'd be crazy not to do this. So we definitely needed that push to get over the edge.
Yeah, and then throughout, after we had both decided that we were going to be moving on from Nintendo, the one thing that was very clear to us is that we wanted to keep working together. And we knew that we had something really special, with what we built with Nintendo Minute and the way we were able to connect with the community. That was something that we both didn't want to lose. definitely needed the gentle nudge from all of our friends. So thank you so much for everyone that's tried to convince us to do this. But it totally made sense, And after we started planning it and started developing more of the details around the podcast and what we wanted to talk about and what we wanted it to focus on, like it just really naturally came together. And even this week as we were recording episode 1 of the podcast, it just felt like super natural and easy, and it just felt right. So it's very validating, I think, to know that we're really doing something that we love, and we're going to be able to continue to connect with the community like we wanted to.
Mm-hmm. Kit touched on it here. So is this both your full-time? Are you both doing this full-time then, basically? Is this your full-time path? You're not doing any other projects or anything?
This is our main thing,
This is it.
All right.
Yeah. This is our focus. This is our main thing. Yeah, I mean...
That's super exciting, yeah.
That is really exciting.
So patreon.com/Kit and Krysta is the place you can go to keep it happening.
It's a link below. Check it out.
Put it all over the screen. I'm just kidding. But no.
Flashing arrows.
Yeah. One thing that was a little bit scary, I think, for both of us is, of course, with Nintendo, we had this big safety net. We had a team of people that were helping to produce content for us. We had a lot of experts. Our production team was incredible, and we missed them so much. As I'm learning to edit, I'm like, oh man, this is a hard job. But yeah, like it's just us. Like this is it. Like we're doing everything. So it's a big learning curve. We're we're figuring it out as we go along. So please be a little bit patient with us if there's like technical stuff that you guys hear. But we hope to improve and continue to get better episode after episode. But yeah, it is a big change from having that like safety net support system to just totally striking out, on your own. So
yeah. Totally. No, it's a little daunting. Luckily, you two are starting off at a much better place than I did when I started 12 years ago when no one knew who I was. So, because you both are basically, like, you helped put a face to Nintendo, I feel like, especially in an era when YouTube was just starting to become a thing a little bit. Beyond the biggest developers at Nintendo, no one really kind of knew who worked there by and large. So it was awesome that you guys were able to help kind of, like, make Nintendo seem more personable, and that's definitely going to help carry you through your podcast as well, I imagine.
Yeah, it was like a time where we had just launched the YouTube channel at Nintendo, and there was a lot of like pretty typical stuff on like a kind of a brand channel where it's just trailers, and I think we had some ads on there and stuff like that, but we really felt like sort of this human quality was really missing, and we were seeing out there like what the other creators were doing, yourself included, Trey, early days, where you're really able to share like authentic impressions about things and talk about things, from like another human to another human. So we wanted to kind of bring a little bit of that to the more like formal Nintendo brand channel.
And we would always see, the discussions from fans because we're fans ourselves and we want to see that stuff. It's like, oh, Nintendo's not seeing how we're feeling, or Nintendo's this brick wall and they don't listen. It's like, no, we're just like you. And I think that was, something we wanted to convey with the show is like, yeah, there's people that are just like you who work at Nintendo and love games and care about games and are passionate about this. So yeah, we really hope that came through.
I definitely think it definitely helped to connect with the community, especially when you guys went even further than just the YouTube and you started going to events for Nintendo Minute panels and talking with people like in the moment and bringing like other content creators and your friends on, and it really helped set up a lot of engagement with all that. But I guess that kind of leads into, since you guys were kind of talking about what started it, what was the main start behind Nintendo Minute? Was it something the two of you came up with together, or was it something a whole big team came up with and then put both of you on? You're like, wait, we love doing this.
Yeah, nobody asked us to do it, and there was no like there was no big day of auditions for who's going to be on Nintendo Minute. We just
casting couch.
We were really inspired by what we were seeing, on YouTube from independent creators, and thought like, wow, this could really be an interesting addition to this YouTube channel that we have. And I think it was just, being at the right place and the right time where we just had a lot of freedom to experiment with something like that. And we grew as the channel grew. And, by the time the channel was getting really big, we worked out a lot of those kinks. And the episodes were much better than those ones we were putting out at the start.
Yeah, the early ones don't watch them.
It's shaky.
It's very embarrassing. And we didn't have any resources at all at the time. It was just like an experiment. Like, why don't we just try this out? It's very minimal lift for the company. It's just two of us. We didn't script anything. We had a one person running the camera kind of setup. It was very like limited in terms of what people needed to do to help us make an episode. And it was actually really cool because we were able to have sort of that like very kind of grassroots type of authenticity that comes from not overproducing stuff on a channel. And as the show grew, I think we were both pretty proud that we were, of course the production got better and we didn't have like shaky audio issues and lighting and stuff like that, but as the show grew, we still like really wanted to maintain that like that same vibe. And we were able to do it, I think. I'm really proud of that. 429 episodes and 8 years later, we were like able to keep that same sort of spirit that we had at the beginning. So that part was pretty cool, and to see it evolve in that way, but still maintain that was pretty awesome.
That's a really interesting point, because I think sometimes it's easy to, the deeper into a project you get or the longer you're with something, like it can almost be overproduced to a point where it starts to feel inauthentic or unauthentic. And that you guys found a good middle ground, I think, a good balance between the two. And that's difficult to strike, where you still feel like you're not just speaking through or on behalf of a corporate machine. You're still individuals, and that's, I think, an important quality to have on YouTube at times. So, speaking of which, actually, you both, as Kit kind of said, there wasn't a casting call for this. So you both started at Nintendo. You were already working at Nintendo, I assume, before Nintendo Minute even started. So how did that actually... So what did you do at Nintendo before Nintendo Minute, and how did Nintendo Minute change your role at Nintendo?
Yeah, so I started at Nintendo a year before Kit, and I actually joined the company early days when they moved the sales and marketing team from... Redmond, Washington. Now, of course, everyone's moving back, but from Redmond to Redwood City. So I was able to join the team when they relocated down to California. And I was just like straight fresh out of college, like looking for an entry-level job. I did not have any like sort of connections. I just applied like a normal person on the website. And basically I was working in the communications department at Nintendo, and doing, very traditional like public relations work and things like that. And so, my career at Nintendo stayed within the communications team, and I was able to do lots of other different things, like work with creators, which I loved, work on, our social channels, create content. Those last few years at Nintendo, where I was able to really connect deeply with our creator community, was probably the happiest I had been in my career. And then on top of that, we were doing Nintendo Minute, which was really funny because I feel like a lot of times we joke around. It's like, it wasn't really like a part of our real job. Like no one recognized this as like a part of this, our actual like daily roles and responsibilities. It was just like, oh, it's just some side thing you guys do, like whatever, And, but I was like, it's a side thing, but like we're doing all this cool stuff. So shouldn't we get a little shouldn't we have a little bit of time that we can dedicate to this? So it was a balance that we needed to strike for sure to kind of do both.
Yeah, and I came up in the same department as Krysta, and I'd had a little bit more experience prior working. I worked at Bandai Namco and Konami. And it was interesting because at the time we were both doing traditional PR, but Nintendo Minute really exposed to all of these new things that were happening with creators and social media and content creation. And that's, like Krysta, that became my job eventually. So I eventually oversaw the team that did all of that, those three things at Nintendo. So it was kind of good just getting experience and getting exposure to all of these different things that were happening that have become so important for the company now.
Yeah, I imagine it's all useful information that'll I'm sure will continue to pay off as you move forward into your own venture.
Yes, we've already seen that a lot. We're like, thank goodness we know how to do this. Oh my gosh, from the other side, right? Like like how to run a social media channel. Like that's actually hard work. Like people think you're just tweeting away or whatever, but you gotta think about this kind of stuff,
It takes actual effort and thought.
Exactly.
To do so. And you'll be wearing a lot of hats, especially doing your own thing now. So
exactly.
So I guess I'm a little curious then. So that's how you got started. Let's skip ahead then to how it ended, because a few months ago, Nintendo had announced that they're closing the Redwood City office, which is a surprise to me, considering they opened it, I assume, for it to be closer to parts of the gaming community, like IGN and GameSpot are down there where I used to work, and other gaming companies as well. So did it come as a huge surprise to find out that Nintendo was closing? And I believe too that they correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard from others that they may have offered, for anyone to move up if they wanted to rather than they retain their position. So if that were the case, clearly you two decided not to do that. Is that how it went down, basically? Or how surprising was all of that sequence of events?
Well, Andre, I think they heard that you'd moved back up to Seattle, and they just said, what's the point of all this?
You were the catalyst all along.
Yeah.
See, that's why you two needed to move up here.
Oh,
hang out in person.
But yeah, it's true that this office, had been opened about 14 years ago, and they relocated all of the people doing marketing and sales. So on one hand, it was surprising that they were going to do the opposite of that, sort of undo it. But at the same time, you knew that was something the company had done before and, could always do in the future. So on one hand, I was surprised. On one hand, I wasn't. To the company's credit, everybody in that office got the chance to relocate, and, they were very helpful in helping the people that wanted to do that. But I think for both of us, we're both longtime natives of this area, and again, we'd been at Nintendo for so long, it was a good moment of just reflection of like, well, what have I already accomplished? What else do I have to accomplish here? And what could I potentially do if I did something else?
Yeah, and we actually go into pretty deep details on our podcast, episode 1. Excuse me. So that's our Nintendo Storytime topic for the week, is this whole thing of why we left and what happened and how we, and really how we feel and how we felt going through this experience. It was definitely challenging, and there were moments where it was really hard. But I think at the end we arrived here now, and we're happy that everything happened the way that it did. But it definitely took time to get here, and there was sort of a lot that we go into that hopefully people will be interested to listen to.
I think so. I mean, I'm definitely already intrigued, so I'll be checking out the first episode. And on that note, one of the major features you mentioned that's part of the podcast is Nintendo Storytime, I believe, where every week you'll have a behind-the-scenes story of working at Nintendo from over your nearly collectively 30 years of experience there. Now, I've done the math. One story per week times 52 weeks. That's 52 stories a year. I know I'm pretty good at this whole thing. That's a lot of stories. So do you have like a whole database ready to go, like a whole spreadsheet with everything filled out, or are you just going to come up with them on the spot?
Did you hack our system? Did you? How did you know that, Andre? Very suspicious. You're like in my Google Drive. No, just kidding. But no, we actually did do that. We when we started thinking about the podcast and what we're going to be building and how we wanted to structure each episode, we were like, we have to tell some of these amazing stories that we were able to experience at Nintendo. And so we started making a list, and that list took off. The list is long.
Wow.
Very, 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 very long. It's been a long, long time of us working there. We've had the privilege and some amazing opportunities to be around some of our industry greats and be at these really historical industry moments. So yeah, we have that all in our little heads that we're ready to share with you guys. And yeah, every week we'll feature a new, never heard before Nintendo story from our time there, and lots of other stuff as well. So
are there any you can tease, any little tidbits you can give us for future stories?
Well, we worked with a lot of pretty closely with a lot of the developers. Some of our favorite memories were definitely with, working with Mr. Aonuma, Mr. Miyamoto. We definitely have a lot of stories around that. And just even little funny things that have happened that people might not know, from the inside, yeah, there's a lot of those kinds of things, I think, that people might find interesting.
Yeah, we had sort of a Forrest Gump-esque knack of just being around when interesting things or interesting people were around. So Yeah, I think we're also going to try and, line these stories up to just, times that are on people's minds. So, for example, the 5-year Switch anniversary is just around the corner, so that might be a good story to talk about then.
Mm-hmm. Or we have like lots of fun E3 memories, so when that time rolls around and everyone's thinking about E3 again, like that could be something as well.
Ooh. As long as E3 happens this year. But
who knows? Maybe it will never happen again. I don't know.
Never get those E3 stories.
Well, no.
Speaking of all the different events, I mean, not even just part of Nintendo Minute. I mean, you guys did a lot with Nintendo Minute. You went to like all the different PAXs. You guys even went to Japan a few times. You went to a ton of different events. I think, Krysta, before or early Nintendo Minute, you even used to do like little like interviews around E3 where you walked around and recapped the day. Basically, you guys have traveled around a lot, and you've been a part of many different events. So, what's a personal favorite memory, or just in general moment from these different events that you guys have gone to?
I think I really liked it when we started doing those live shows at PAX.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually really nervous doing a live show.
You
This
were.
is like a very specific fear that I have. I don't know what the deal is, but I'm fine like being on camera. I'm fine like talking to people. I'm not nervous doing that, but for some reason for these live shows I was like a wreck, but I still love them. I think it was just such a fun way to meet people like in real life and connect again, have that deeper relationship with the community. I think there was one that we did where we played like Mario Kart and we brought people up on stage to play Mario Kart with us.
That was the first one I got to do with you guys, I think.
I think that was the first one. Yeah, that was my favorite one. I think that was so much fun. And I know that's one thing that I just miss so much from the last couple of years is not being able to be around all of you guys. And I hope that as we start to do more of these podcasts and start to grow this little thing that we have, this project that we have going, that we'll one day be able to do all those live events and see you guys at shows and do meetups and just like hang out and stuff like that. I really want to do that. That's like something that's high on my list for sure.
Yeah, we probably, in the last couple of years, like didn't necessarily have to go to all of those events like job-wise, but we just loved being there and loved being with all of the people. So again, like Krysta said, we want to keep doing that when we can, and interacting with the people is what gives us the motivation to keep doing all this.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear. So yeah, the community definitely helps power you, I think, to create content and it just do this for a living. So it's awesome to have that support already from the start. Speaking of the start, how did your first episode go? Like, were there any surprises that came up when recording it? Which, again, I think it should be probably live by the time this airs. Did it go smoothly? Were there any hiccups along the way? Did you end up having to re-record anything? Tell us more about that.
We don't script, and we only do one take.
Oh wow! All right, so put it purely raw.
So when you mess up that intro, that would have just happened.
Oh,
I'm just like calling you out. No, just kidding. I'm kidding. Kid and I are both like so anti like scripting things. And we did do like a little. We're so professional. We did like a little run of show because we had just so much stuff to talk about to just keep us organized. But yeah, we just did like one long take. It ended up being a super long episode. I guess we just had a lot to say episode 1, but yeah, I think the recording part of it went really well. We definitely have experience recording stuff with Nintendo Minute, although this is a very different format. The editing part though is a little bit of a different story, and there's certainly when you have to process a 1 hour 40-minute video, like there's some challenges there. So yeah, it's a good learning experience.
It'll get easier. I promise you.
Yeah, hopefully. Yes. Maybe I'll call you. Like, help me.
I think one of the secret surprises of the show is that our studio is actually a spare bedroom in Krysta's mom's house. So it delivers the very nice, cozy vibes. And after we finished, we had some very nice lunch together. Yeah,
she made us lunch. It's very nice.
That sounds
very
really
sweet.
nice.
Very sweet. Yeah, she's a supporter. Family business.
That's great. I love it. Yeah, because I know, in fact, that's even better, I think, than does Nintendo didn't. You didn't have an on-campus cafe, I think, at the the Redwood City office, right?
That just so happened to be one of the fan questions we answered. Is like, what did you guys do for lunch? And boy, we got into that.
We got into it. We're like hangry still from that time, like forever traumatized. But yes, the new cafeteria is my mother. Thanks, Mom. She's a very good cook, so I'm like very lucky.
Instead of Mario Cafe, you have Mom Cafe.
Now Mom Cafe, yeah. Get her to recreate that Pokemon curry or something one day.
Oh, there you go. You even did the whole Nintendo Minute episode on the curry.
I know.
So
We were talking about that, like how we both love to cook too, and I want to do so many cool things. Like, let's do a cooking spin-off show, or like, let's do a travel show where we can go and see people. And yeah, so there's like so many, possibilities, I think, for us beyond what we're doing at this very moment. And hopefully we can grow this and be able to do all those other things as well.
So, okay, so you mentioned you're all about one-taking these things. Was that the case for Nintendo Minute as well? Like, were you able to like just nail all those the first time through? And was there anything ever that unexpected came up? Like, was there ever an episode that you recorded that you couldn't air for whatever reason? Or, who knows what? Any surprises there that people may not know about, having watched all 400 of them, all 400 plus of them?
I think we were good about, again, just sticking to one take. It's just like if somebody flubs a line or something, it's like, who cares? That kind of adds to the charm, right?
Yeah.
There was a time where we were doing a video with a partner, and something happened to the footage, unfortunately, and we had to bring them back and do it again, which was
a little bit
unfortunate, but it came out okay.
Yeah.
There have been a very small number of episodes that we didn't get to air for whatever reason. I think we'll save those discussions for the podcast, but I think that's something we're also very proud of, is like we used everything that we shot, really.
Wow.
And we were consistent too. Like, I was really proud that we were able to put out a weekly episode pretty much the entire run of the show. I think we would take like small little hiatus 2-week breaks, like over like the holiday break or New Year's, or just a small vacation if we're both not in the office. But for the most part, we were like every week 52 episodes a year, kind of doing Andre's math. 52 episodes a year, and during like busy times like E3, we would do like daily vlogs and stuff like that, which was like very fun, but also incredibly challenging for the editing team. But we were pretty proud that we were able to have that like very unscripted type of footage that we basically just lightly edited for Nintendo Minute.
That's awesome. I am jealous of your ability to one-take these things, and I might need your help too, Krysta, then. we can trade tips on editing and hosting.
Okay, love it. Let's do it.
Real quick, I want to get back to the story thing, because obviously you guys have a ton of stories to share, but Nintendo has historically been a very secretive company. So is there a line where like, okay, there's a story here that we can't ever tell, or like things of that nature? Like, do you know where that line is, or is there a line, and how do you tiptoe around that, I guess?
Yeah, there's absolutely a line, but I think we know what it is pretty well. And, I think when it starts to get into, details about other people, that maybe go beyond, the basics, or, things about games that people don't know about, that is, truly a secret, we're not going to be crossing those lines.
Right.
But again, there's so much else just from our own experiences. And that doesn't mean that we won't be talking, about our experiences with other people as well. But I do think we know what that line is.
Right. I imagine Nintendo beats into you after 13 years.
That's true, yes. We're very well-trained people.
I guess that kind of does raise the question, though. Obviously, that works within the lines of things you can't actually say, but how much of Nintendo's future projects, from when you left to what's still to come for this year, how much do you actually know about any of those?
I don't know anything anymore. Like I said, literally, like I said during the airing of the Nintendo Direct, I think I posted something and I was like, this is the first time in 14 years I actually get to be surprised. And it was like something that was kind of a cool feeling. Everyone thinks it's so great to know things, but it's actually great not to know things. I'm tired of being spoiled on games before before the game comes out. Nintendo is very good about only telling people that need to know the things that you need to know to do your job. So even if you work there, there's tons of people, that never know what comes out in a Nintendo Direct, and just a very small team, for example, that works on that particular project will know the details of that project. And so, after I had announced that I was going to be leaving the company, I made sure that I was like, don't send me anything. I don't want to review this. I don't want to see this. Don't talk to me. Just to keep it very very cut and dry. Like once I was done, I didn't know anything. So now
Right.
I'm just like you, speculating, summoning circles. Let's go, people.
And not only is that the company's kind of point of view about protecting secrets, but the employees really take that to heart. So if you were to just in a hallway ask somebody like, "Hey, tell me about this," like you'd get a dirty look.
Yeah.
And I think that's been a really important part of preserving all of the great surprises. And you see leaks happening all the time in games,
Right.
but I think Nintendo's had a pretty good track record of avoiding those in a lot of cases. And those are special moments for the fans, so everybody's working hard to preserve that.
So what was it like for you then, Kit, to watch the latest Nintendo Direct? Were you like Krysta? Did you know anything going in, and was it nice to be surprised again after all those years?
I knew a bit, kind of like her. I had started to purposely, not seek out new information because again, it's better not to know in that case. But yeah, after this Direct, looking forward, there's not really a lot else that I know. So yeah, I'll be sort of in the Krysta boat of experiencing it fresh.
Yeah, well, that's fun and exciting. So we'll get your raw reactions now on your podcast to all these
Yes.
new Nintendo games.
Absolutely. It's going to be fun. I know a lot of people were like, do a reaction video. And we're like, maybe for the next one.
Gotta work your way up to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we only started doing reactions last year or two. So, another question I had kind of related to, behind the scenes and everything is you've worked with a lot of developers, of course, over the years. Is there anything that stood out to you about any of them that maybe doesn't come across through their, official appearances? Like, was there anything that surprised you about any of them in particular? Like, oh, this person is way more, exciting or something than I expected, based on the pre-recorded Nintendo Direct segments or whatever.
I mean, I'd say you know just based on the games that these are wildly creative people, but you get any time with them in private or at a dinner, and you can just see even more so like how dynamic they all are. And you can imagine them in a setting where they are really inspiring a team or driving a creative vision. They're really different from other people. And they're just very special, all of them. And obviously they're different and have different personalities, but they really do have that driving force that you can just feel by being around them.
And I think another thing for me that was always just such a pleasant surprise is how nice and just kind they all are and caring. They're, they can be divas. I mean, they have the right, if they wanted to be a diva, like everyone would be like, sure, you have, you basically have like the golden ticket to do whatever you want because you're incredibly talented and awesome and amazing. But they would never.
And you make us millions and millions of money. Or dollars.
You're like an icon. But yeah, no, they were just incredibly humble, kind, nice people that just wanted to do the best they could for the game that they were working on. They wanted the fans to enjoy what they were playing. They really believed in the Nintendo, bring smiles to people, like truly. So it was just really nice, to be able to be around that kind of energy. They were just always a joy to be around and so inspiring. So we're very lucky to get to work alongside all of them.
Well, speaking of, I guess, developers, kind of, well, not really related, but that's gonna be my segue anyway. What are some of your favorite games? And actually, gonna throw a little curveball in here. Are there any games that you may have presented on Nintendo Minute that you got home, start playing for yourselves, you're like, wow, this is not the game I expected based on?
Well, that is one other thing that I think we will pride ourselves on is we would not include a game that we, didn't think was fun. Because, that would have meant us, kind of putting out an inauthentic reaction that I think people would have been able to see through pretty quickly. Right. So, nobody ever told us what to do or feature this game or that, but we often would get requests of like, hey, what about this or that? And sometimes we said, politely, no thank you, because we don't think we can really do it justice. And I'm sure there's, the right audience for that game out there, but it's just not us.
What's really fun now, though, that we get to do and talk about is games on other platforms.
Right.
We were authentically sharing our thoughts about Nintendo games that we loved, and we still will do that. But now we get to talk about like all the other games that we play as well. It's like a huge part of your like gaming life that you had to kind of not like keep it secret or anything, but just we weren't publicly like out there like saying like let's play this Halo or whatever. So.
But it's still weird hearing those words out of your mouth right now.
Xbox. I'm just kidding. But like, yeah, people get asked me all the time. They're like, "Do you even own a PlayStation?" I'm like, "Guys, yes, I love all video games."
To be fair, a lot of people don't have a PlayStation.
Okay, I was very lucky. I was very lucky. Okay, yes, but yeah, Kit and I both got Xbox. Over the holiday break to play Halo, actually, and then we've been,
nice.
We're both really excited about Horizon coming out this week, and so yeah, like now we can talk about all of these other. We talk to each other about it all the time, obviously, but now we can share that with everybody else as well. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, actually, one of the early memories of us becoming friends was discussing Fable 2, actually, in the office, and that was a game that we were both playing a long, long time ago that brought us together. So yeah, we've been playing all sorts of different games for forever.
So when Nintendo Minute started, were you already friends by that point, or is that what helped kind of cement the bond between you two?
Yeah, we were already friends, I think, at that point, because he was only a year behind me, and then we didn't start Nintendo Minute until like, what, I guess,
2013.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Math, hard. So yeah, we were already friends, and what was really cool about it is that Kit and I in the office would just like talk about games, and we'd play games together, and we were just doing that already. So when we started Nintendo Minute, it was basically just like doing what we were doing, but in front of a camera. Like it really wasn't different than our just regular interactions.
Right.
So I think that's what made people connect with us too, is that it truly was like our lives, and people make fun of us. They're like, "When is your next ad coming out?" Like people in the company who don't know that what Nintendo Minute is, like, they'll call it like an ad or like a spot or something. We're like, "This isn't an ad. This is our lives. What are you talking about?" And get like really sensitive about it. But it truly was. It was just like stuff that we were already talking about, excited about playing, and we just were able to play it in front of a camera and share it with everybody else.
We did both really enjoy the comments that were like, "Oh, these people look like they hate each other." Oh, that's an interesting read on things.
I think people were really reading into the competitive nature between you two sometimes.
Right.
That's true. Yeah, we do get a little heated in those moments.
It's very real.
Who doesn't with their friend? Who doesn't like have that moment when they're playing games with their friends? I'm sure everyone does. But yeah, I love the ones that are like, she's reading a script and she actually hates him. I'm like, what?
Oh, that's the internet for you. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Oh, that's hilarious. Real quick, it just occurred to me, who came up with the Nintendo Minute name? Was that both of you, or how did that work? And also, well, actually, I'll have a follow up to that, but first.
I think we both just kind of, I don't think we put a ton of thought into that, but I think we both thought, well, that's a good name, and it was meant to be very figurative, not literal, to convey that this was a short-ish video. Get all your, Nintendo information in a minute, so to speak. Obviously not literally a minute, but again, we got a lot of comments about that too.
I think increasingly less literally too,
right,
as time went on.
Yeah, exactly. I think there was like a short list somewhere, and we kind of went through it and brainstormed names. We actually talked about names that we brainstormed for the podcast in our first episode, because that's always like, I'm sure like there's some shenanigans about the names. People are gonna like make fun of us or something.
Yeah. But coming up with the name is hard.
It's hard, yeah. It's really hard.
That's how we ended up with Kit and Krysta. These are all bad.
But it could have been Krysta and Kit too, right? So how do you decide what name comes first?
Alphabetically.
Even? Ah, that makes sense.
Oh, I just realized that. Krysta manages the style guide for us, not me. She's also very particular. You need to sit on this side.
Yeah, I don't like
Of the
that
couch.
when it's like you
Oh,
can't
really?
sit on the wrong side. It's weird. Yeah,
That's
I have a
funny.
lot of like weird quirks.
I think yeah, you can pick some of those up over the years too, right?
Yeah,
So-
yeah. It's just like this is where I'm supposed to be. I can't. It's like when you part your hair a different way. It's just weird.
Yep.
Oh yeah. That's why
totally
seeing
get
yourself on these like webcam meetings is weird because you're like, or I guess, it doesn't flip. I guess it doesn't flip you always. It does for me because I'm still watching the raw feed sometimes. So
Oh, yeah,
it's-
that's
it takes me used to.
weird.
It's like
Who's
is that
that?
person? So circle back real quick to a question I had as part of 2. What's your all-time favorite game? If you had to choose one game to be, I don't know, stranded on an island with, what game would that be?
Mine is Super Mario World. I play the game all the
Yes.
time. Like it's endlessly fun, and you can play it, especially if you're on a desert island and you just like want something that will entertain you forever. Like that game entertains me for like ever. I feel like I still like find random new things in there, or like how to get through a level a different way, or I don't know. It's just it's something that's like so timeless, and I pick it up randomly all the time still now and play through it. So that's definitely my pick.
And mine is Breath of the Wild, and I think it's interesting to to have a favorite game. I think most people pick their favorite game when they're like it's of school age or something that they
Right.
grew when they were growing up. And my previous favorite game was Mario 64, and I was always like, oh, that'll never be unseated. That'll always be my favorite. But then like a year or so after Breath of the Wild came out, I was like, no, I think this is the one. And that game just feels like it came out of a time machine from the future. It's just so unlike not to mention Nintendo games, so unlike any Nintendo game. It's just
Right.
so far ahead of, even a lot of games that you're seeing today, and we're almost 5 years later. It's really an incredible thing to just play and play and play.
That's so interesting, yeah, because Mario 64 in particular almost feels like a proto Breath of the Wild in a few senses. Obviously, it's nowhere near the scale of it. So I can kind of see why Breath of the Wild might take it over from Mario 64. And yeah, it's like I'm seeing like we're seeing new open world games come out constantly, and I'm actually surprised that more of them haven't tried to emulate more elements of Breath of the Wild. It really does seem like a game from like the distant future that was just doing things way ahead of its time.
Right.
Just like Link in the game. Coming
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
future.
Right? It's wow. It's thematically appropriate. I love that.
You might have touched upon this a little bit earlier, but in terms of specifically back when you guys were like filming the Nintendo Minutes every week, how long in advance were they actually done compared to when they came out? Was it like, all right, Monday afternoon, we got to record this so it gets ready for Friday? Or did you guys ever record them like several weeks in advance before?
That's another thing that was like heated arguments with our production team sometimes. Not in a bad way, just like we were debating. This is a very like important topic to me, is like Nintendo Minute and our podcast now. Like we want it to feel like really current. Like it should be like stuff that's happening this week. But of course, it's really hard to edit a video in a very short amount of time. So what we'd normally do is we would film on like a Thursday or a Wednesday the week before, and then all of our videos came out on Fridays at 3. So it would give like a little bit of time for the editing team to figure everything out, or collect gameplay footage or work through any kinks. But yeah, there was a lot of discussion, like, should we shoot these earlier? Let's shoot them like all at once. And I was like, no, we're never doing that. Like, never. And with the podcast, we are very like, we're shooting on Mondays to go out on Wednesdays. Like that's the new schedule. Like we really want to make sure that everything is like contained in that week. Because I think it makes it makes a big difference, than like sort of banking episodes like weeks in advance or months in advance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fine point, but there were we really wanted to be able to react to maybe something that was happening in the community, and if you were recording something weeks in advance, you just couldn't do that. And like, what if I missed out on the next great, like, why can't Metroid crawl moment? I would hate myself for that.
You never live it down.
Oh man, or the what was it, Nice Water
Yeah.
on
The nice
Miiverse.
water, yes.
So many
Get
great
the Mario
Miiverse
water.
moments out there.
I miss Miiverse.
Oh,
The only
Miiverse.
social network to understand you need a spoiler button to hide things. I don't get it. To back up a little bit, back to working at out of Redwood City, I was curious because to me, when Nintendo announced their opening an office in Redwood, it actually surprised me because they'd always been a Redmond company to me. I grew up around Seattle before moving back here. So I was curious if having that kind of separation between being in two different states from the actual headquarters, did that introduce any challenges at all, or did it not really feel like much of an issue day to day?
Well, we're much better about like video conferencing now, but 14 years ago it definitely was very different. And we were also a emerging satellite office. I mean, when I was starting, it was like a construction zone basically. I like sat in my cube and there was like construction around me. Just no one was there yet. They were still like hiring people, building the team. So yeah, and I think in the beginning it was I definitely felt like I wasn't at the headquarters.
Right.
But as time went on, like I think it was really figured out. We were finding ways to connect with everyone that was at the headquarters. We'd take a lot of trips back and forth, which was always fun. Especially because they had a cafeteria that we could eat at. Just kidding. And then back then, Nintendo also had a New York office. So we were working like across, sort of across the country with teams there too. So it started to feel better once that we kind of ironed out all of those opening new office things. But it was tough in the beginning for sure to feel like connected to headquarters.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure there were a lot of quirks compared to other office settings that people have, but it was like, we were just dealing with them from day one every day, so it just felt like the normal pace of work. And there was keeping in touch with the people in Redmond, but we would also keep in touch with people in Japan and people in Europe and all over the world. So that was just kind of the nature of the job of, this office that you're in is not what everything is revolving around.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Lots of time zones and weird times for meetings. Like, Kid has some weird, like, what was it, midnight, 2 a.m.?
Timeanddate.com is a clutch website that will get you through hard things like daylight savings.
Daylight savings.
Right.
They don't do that in Japan. So every meeting is like, it's like shifting, or the worst ones were like when you had a meeting with Europe and a meeting with Japan in the same day. Because Europe, you have to get up super early, like 8
Somebody's
a.m.
pulling the short straw.
Yeah, and then you'd stay really late for a meeting with Japan. So you're like, I just worked 18 hours. Like, oh my gosh, my brain is going to explode. Yeah, time zones are hard. Glad
So
we
it's
don't.
probably going to be nice running on your own schedule.
I was going to say, like, really happy. This is where I, like, moved to, like, Norway. I'm like, see you later, kid. We're going to the time zone now.
Let's see here. I guess do you have any final stories from your time working at Nintendo? Obviously, you'll be covering a ton of them, I'm sure, on your podcast. But are there like any standout moments from over the years that I don't know that come to mind immediately when you think back on your over a decade at the company?
Well, there's one that I have to share because we're with you, Andre, which is you came to see Splatoon. Before, I think it was an update for Splatoon, and it was like, well, Andre's going to come to the office and check it out, but our internet didn't work. I'm sure you remember this well, and we actually had to go to your place to see this stuff that was online because you were the only place that had working internet. A little embarrassing.
Wow.
That's right. You actually had to swing by my house. I totally forgot. I had forgotten about that till now.
The old switcheroo.
I have an Andre story too. I used to love it when you just like rolled up on your motorcycle with your like full on like leather
the
outfit.
leather?
Yeah, I was like, damn, he's cool.
Yeah, not cool these days. I ditched the bike when I moved up here, so sadly, those days are behind me. So
yeah, but I'm always like, wow, that's awesome. Rolling up, he's gonna play some pre-launch games. Take off the helmet.
Well,
like,
exactly.
wow.
And right for me, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I'm at Nintendo. I get to play pre-launch games. Get to see Kid and Krysta.
Had a real No More Heroes vibe to you, which I kind of liked, honestly.
I need to play that series more. Then clearly,
you really do. Yeah.
It fits your older
action. Yeah.
Yeah,
I like
so.
it. I like it.
And yeah, I remember you guys had that at the time at least the room you primarily did meetings and filming, and I think it had the Majora's Mask mural, which was amazing.
Yes.
As I recall.
Yeah, we had it. That
cool.
room was Kirby's Epic Yarn. We yarned the room, and then when we launched Majora's Mask, we made it into like a Zelda room. There was like grass on the floor. It was fun.
That's cool. That's cool.
It was cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah, we have photos. It was pretty cool.
Nice. I love the ideas behind that, and it makes me think of like back at E3 2016 when the whole booth had seen to Breath of the Wild and all the fun creativity like that.
So relaxing. It was like a respite from the craziness of E3.
That's for sure. We needed that.
Yeah.
Well, as a fun bonus question, I wanted to say for by the end, at some point in the future that we don't know when this could be, but can we ever play around in Mario Party Superstars with you guys?
Yeah,
Love to.
Let's do it.
All right,
of course.
awesome.
We're not very good.
Yes.
You'll
That's
definitely
We have like a losing streak going when we play with creators. So, but
Luckily, it's Mario Party, so it doesn't really matter.
it's true. But yeah, of course, that'll be
Yes.
fun.
All right. Awesome. Well, that sounds great. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up for us here. Kit, Krysta, thank you so much for joining us to share with us your time at Nintendo and, of course, your excitement for or your everything coming up for the Kit and Krysta podcast. Can you tell our audience where exactly they can find all of that at and where they can follow you at as well?
Yeah. So if you are a Patreon subscriber, you can get the podcast early, 48 hours early. So subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/KitandKrysta. Follow us on all of our social channels. We're on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, and it's also at Kit and Krysta. And then, of course, our YouTube channel is youtube.com/KitandKrysta. So made it easy for you guys. Hopefully give us a follow. We love to just continue to interact with you guys there, and hopefully you're listening or you're going to be listening to episode 1 of the podcast.
Yeah, I know I will be. And you
yeah.
can find links to all of that in the description below. So before we fully wrap it up, any parting thoughts you want to leave our audience with before we shut down the conversation here?
We're just excited. It's going to be
Yeah.
fun. We're excited to just get going and do this.
Just like launching a game, but we're launching a podcast.
Sure,
Exactly
it's the same.
right. And maybe there could be a game someday, Kit and Krysta. We could get-
For Smash.
There you go.
There we go. All right. Well, thank you again for joining us, and good luck with your podcast. I
Thank
can't wait to hear
you.
the first
Thank you.
episode.
Thank you.
All right.